Bike suspension, full of mystique, but before we get into any of the technical details, some fundamentals first. Make sure that the mechanics are straight and make sure everything is running properly. Head bearings, for instance, they've got to actually run smoothly. Make sure there's no knottiness. Make sure that you can track nice and easy. Make sure your tyres have got plenty of wear left on them. Make sure they're the right pressure. Make sure they haven't got any flat spots on them. And the next thing to check is wheel alignment. Make sure both wheels are in line. If they're actually like this, with the back wheel out of line with the front one, you're not going to go anywhere fast or even slow. Once you've got those fundamentals straight though, next thing to check is your suspension sag. But first, what do we actually mean by sag? Well, what it is, it's the difference between the unloaded fork length, because I've got this wheel off the ground, it's free length if you like, and actually the length when it's actually loaded, just when you've got the weight of the bike on it when it's off its stand down on the ground. So what you need to do is get yourself a decent tape measure, and you've got to measure on a fixed point from the bike as against the bit that's going to move, which is the lower bit. So on here, upside down forks, you can actually pick up off that edge just above the oil seal there, put the tape on there, pull it down till you get a nice sharp edge you can measure off. Like I've got the wheel spindle just on that inner edge there, that sharp edge. And that, by the looks of it here, is 23.5 centimetres. So you just take a note of that, 23.5. Now the next thing to do is actually take it off its stand, get that front wheel on the ground, and then measure that length. Take one from the other, and that's your sag. Now as you can see here, the bike's already on the ground and I'm actually measuring up the swing arm position for the rear suspension. So again, you need a good fixed point. I'm on the number plate holder there, down to a nice sharp edge there. That's 51 centimetre there. And I know from when I measured it before, when the suspension was actually unloaded, it was 53 centimetres. So that's 20 mil here. Up the front, we had 23 mil, which is about right. If you're a sort of 12 stone rider, I'd say that's around about the sort of right level. If you're a bit heavier than that, you probably need to bang up the preload a little bit to adjust that sag so the bike doesn't squat so much before you actually get started. And how do you actually adjust that preload? With a C-spanner out of your toolkit, if it happens to be this sort of adjustment. You can see the rear shock on this Yamaha dead easy. So we just put this on this ring here. It's a bit fiddly, but nevertheless, fit it on. I said it was fiddly, didn't I? There we are, I've got that on there. And then I actually pull that round. It's easier if the bike's off the stand, but pull it round, there we go, one click. And you only need to do one thing at a time on there, so that's done that. I'd need to check the ride height again, the old sag at the back there. And then there's the front suspension to do as well, and you just need a spanner for that one. Right, you've adjusted the rear sag by adjusting the preload. Now it's up to the front end, and you can see here these nice blue anodized adjusters. Most important thing to do is count the actual visible rings on here. These aren't threads, they're actually marker rings. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 visible rings there. Put a spanner on there, make sure it's a decent fit. A socket set is in fact a better fit. And then turn each one of these down equally. That's the important thing to do. So just turn it down and do one division at a time, and then do the remeasuring of the sag. And that'll give you your actual preload, the increase in preload on there, and which will alter the sag. Now we've adjusted our sag by adjusting the preload. In fact, we've wound the preload up a bit. So the bit I'm doing now is actually checking the rebound damping. And the best way to do that, press on the centre of the tank, or rather the centre of the bike, near the filler cap in a strong part of the tank. Press in the middle, and you can compare the front and rear. The rear should be slightly slower to return than the front. This one isn't, but as this is a customer's bike, I'm not going to mess about with it. Perhaps he likes it like that, I don't know. But just to say that we actually wanted to adjust the front rebound. You do that on the adjusters on top of the forks. So you get yourself a decent screwdriver, and you see the little slotted, they're all the same, little slotted adjuster there. And as you turn them in, you can actually hear a little click. And it's most important that you screw both of them in by the same amount. So as you're twirling around there, just count the clicks. Say 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put this back to where it was. 2, 3. Do exactly the same on that one, and then you'll make sure that both fork legs are exactly the same as far as rebound damping goes. And then once you've done the front, you can then do the back. But first of all, I'm going to get this over so I can nail on something, because this one is really in a difficult place. Rear shocker's there, but it's the other way around compared with the forks, and so your rebound is right down at the bottom. And worse than that, it's actually behind the chain on this one. So if I get a bit closer there, you can just see the screw up under there. So you need to get the old screwdriver in on that head, which, as I say, it's a devil to get at. Get in there, and again, important, always count the clicks. So we'll just give that 1, 2, 3. I'm only picking on 3, no particular reason, but it's just handy. And I'll put it back for our customer friend. There we go. So we'll say you're happy with your rebound now. Now what you can get on a nice sports bike like this, you often get compression damping as well. You don't always get it, but where you do, it's at the other end of the shocker. And here it is, you can see it here, nice shiny screw. Again, get your old screwdriver, get it on that slot, and again, count those clicks. Can't stress that too much, just count them. There we are, 3 and back again. So that'll give you compression damping. That bit's important really for comfort. If you're on a racetrack, you can crank it up, have it nice and firm. But on Britain's roads, you need a little bit of compliance, so don't be silly about it. But always count it, so at least you know where you've been. Having done the rear, you can then concentrate on the front. Now on the front, they're down the bottom of the forks. At the back here, see what I mean about it being confusing? And again, I should have kept my kneeling mat there, but there you get the screw in there, put your screwdriver in, and again, count those clicks. 1, there it goes, 2, you can probably hear that one, 3, there we are, nice and sharp, put that back, 2, 3. So that'll give you compression damping for the front. And that's it, that's your suspension, not actually set up, but at least those are the component parts, and you can have a crack yourself, but just be careful what you're doing.